Hello. Yes, that's me, your one-man research army and reluctant optimist about human data behavior. Welcome to DepDiv, where we take the latest chaos, put it under a microscope, and then make fun of the label on the specimen jar. Today, polls, which, if you're like me, means you get to watch dozens of charts fight each other for attention while your stomach quietly judges every campaign ad. We're diving into late October polling from big outfits, NBC, The Washington Post /ABC, The Economist /YouGov and Friends, and the headline is blunt. The president's approval has slid, and in many slices of the electorate, his support is now under 50%. Yep, under the halfway line. The magic number that used to trigger panic at campaign HQ, and now mostly triggers group chats that just say, huh. All right, let's get to the spreadsheets before my inner statistician yawns and goes for a nap. Here's the gist from late October. A bunch of major polls are putting the president's job approval in the high 30s to low 40s, with disapproval sitting comfortably above 50%. And that means, well, more people disapprove than approve. So let's start with this stark number from the Washington Post /ABC poll. 59%. That is the highest disapproval number we're seeing across these major polls. And it's not just a number, right? It's a really clear signal that a pretty big majority of voters are not happy with the job the president is doing. And then on the other side of the coin, you have this, 39% approval coming from the Economist poll. Now, not only is that a low number, but for this specific tracker, it's actually a new low for his entire term. You know, whenever an approval rating drops below that 40% mark, it's like a big flashing red light on the political dashboard. So when you kind of zoom out and average these major polls together, the picture gets crystal clear. We're looking at an approval rating hovering around 41%, while disapproval is up at about 57%. That's a 16-point gap. The takeaway here is simple, and it's stark. Way more people disapprove of the job the president is doing than approve.
But why? What's really driving all this dissatisfaction? Well, the data points to this fascinating kind of dual anxiety that's gripping the electorate. It's not just one thing. It's like a two-front war for voters' peace of mind.
Okay, so on one front, you've got anxiety about the wallet. This table from The Economist lays it out pretty plainly. The top concerns are what you'd expect. Inflation, the economy, healthcare costs. These are those kitchen table issues, right? The stuff that hits people's daily lives and their feeling of financial security. But this is where things get really, really interesting. This slide shows us the other front of that anxiety, and honestly, it might be even deeper. An NBC poll asked voters which issues are very important to them. And just look at this. A massive 93% said protecting constitutional rights. That's 10 points higher than the cost of living. So yeah, voters are worried about their money, but it seems like they might be even more worried about the very foundation of the country. Now, this dissatisfaction isn't just some general vague mood. It's hitting specific, really crucial groups. Imagine you're at a party and everyone slowly drifts away from your karaoke performance. First the teenagers leave, then the cool aunt, then your cousin who only came for the snacks. That's kind of what polling looks like when approval slides under 50% in your key demographics. So let's start with the independents. I mean, these are the swing voters, the ones who usually decide elections. And as you can see, the president's support with this group has absolutely cratered. Just 30% of these critical voters approve of the job he's doing, while almost 70% disapprove. That is a huge, huge chasm to try and cross. And this isn't isolated. The erosion is happening pretty much everywhere. As this slide shows, support is crumbling across the board. Among white voters, it's down. And among young adults, it's plummeted. One poll found just 20% approval. The support has fallen below that critical 50% line in nearly every single demographic group you can slice. It's that steady erosion that can really, truly ruin an incumbency. Before I continue noodling on demographics and despair, just a quick interruption from our sponsor, me. If you like this blend of data nerding, sarcasm, and occasional existential dread, do me a favor and smash that subscribe button. Leave a review if you want me to keep sounding more professional than I actually am. 5 stars helps me persuade the algorithm that my content is more credible than my high school statistics teacher thought it would be. Also, share this with a friend who enjoys graphs but hates spreadsheets. They'll thank you, and if they don't, well, they probably weren't your friend anyway. Kidding. Mostly. Okay, so with numbers like these, you'd probably assume voters are just rushing over to the other side, right? I mean, if the guy in charge is this unpopular, the opposition party must be riding some huge wave of public affection. Well, this is where the story takes a major, major twist. The data suggests that something way more complicated is happening with the American voter. And here is that twist. It turns out voters are even more unhappy with the Democratic Party. So while the Republican Party has a net favorability of -9%, the Democratic Party's is a shocking -25%. Just let that sink in for a second. The opposition party is significantly more unpopular than the governing party. This creates what a lot of commentators are calling a state of political homelessness. It's this feeling where a ton of voters feel like political orphans, just alienated from both of the major parties. They feel stuck, choosing between two options that they find deeply unsatisfying. Basically, just forced to pick the lesser of two evils. So what does all this chaos actually mean? Well, while opinions on politicians and parties are like flowing water, always changing, the data suggests that the core values of the electorate are more like the solid riverbed underneath. They don't really change all that much. And here is that riverbed. This NBC poll shows that the huge majority of American voters, a full 65%, identify as politically moderate or maybe leaning one way or the other. The very conservative and very liberal wings, they're actually distinct minorities. The political center isn't empty. It's where most people live. And this is not some new thing. It reflects a long-standing reality of American politics, a reality that was captured perfectly by President Eisenhower decades ago. The path to winning over the country has almost always run right through that moderate middle, not down the partisan gutters on the sides. Okay, parting thoughts. Polling is a snapshot, not a prophecy. But these late October polls from major houses tell a clear story. Approval is down, disapproval is up, and crucial subgroups are dipping below that 50% line. Now, that's not game over, but it is a warning light on the dashboard, the kind that blinks right before the music in the elevator stops. A huge thanks to our producer, the magnificent FireflyHaku, who cleans up my audio, finds the best sound effects, and somehow keeps me from sounding like a man recording in a cave. Haku, you're the reason this show sounds human and not like a data export gone rogue. And to you, thanks for lending your ears. Until next time, keep curious, keep skeptical, and may your polling averages be ever in your favor.